Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's contribution in the series Celebrating Women of Chatham, Conversations with Women Making a Difference. The series addresses areas of interest to all county residents, viewed from the perspective of women engaged in both traditional and non-traditional careers. Today, we focus on women entrepreneurs, and we are fortunate enough to have 5 or 6 panelists representing a range of successful businesses centered right here in Chatham County. Now, our moderator for the afternoon is Carolyn Miller, Chatham's Assistant County Manager for Human Resources. And what does that have to do with being an entrepreneur? Everything. One of the traits essential to entrepreneurial success is innovative thinking, and our moderator does plenty of that. She has incorporated many new and creative ideas into county management, such as adding diversity, equity, and inclusion into employee orientation, and creating a personnel committee, which encourages employees to make recommendations that help the county in its day-to-day operations. But some of her ideas have an element of fun, including Employee Appreciation Day and countywide Halloween costume contest. But don't think our moderator's creativity ends there. She is the author of the book Murder in the Old Courthouse. And that's the first installment in the Brownie Wright mystery series. So that's it for me. And let me turn the floor over to our moderator, Carolyn Miller. Carolyn, it's all yours.
Thank you, Evie. Welcome everybody on this impending storm Saturday. I appreciate the introduction, particularly about the Halloween costumes, because I got a paper cut just before this started, and I put on my Minion Band-Aid. I dressed up as a Minion one year, so glad I had those in the desk. And thank you for allowing me to do this. I was a audience member in the first Celebrating Women series and found it to be just thrilling to be in and to see all of the women come together to be genuinely invested in the success of those around them. And I hope that we have the same experience today. And as somebody who has spent their entire career in government, This is a particularly interesting series because I'm not sure I have the guts to do what you all have done. And so I'm anxious and looking forward to hearing from all of you. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. And if it looks like I'm reading, it's because I'm reading across the Zoom screen. So if you would just tell everybody a little bit about you and your business and even how you got into that. So I'm going to start with Lysandra because you're on my left on the screen. So I will give you the floor to give yourself an introduction.
Sure, thank you. I'm Lysandra Weber. If you hear little voices in the background, it's my children. So I own Geek Chic Fashion, a women's clothing company. With our studio is right downtown in downtown Pittsburgh. I've had this business for about 8 years, and I make all the clothing in the collection myself. I have one team member now, and it's sort of modern, casual women's apparel. It transitions from work to weekend. Prior to owning this business, I actually went to graduate business school at UNC and studied sustainability and entrepreneurship. So have always known I wanted to start a business, and was sort of thankful when I had my son. I was working in a corporate job at Burt's Bees, but decided that I wanted to stay home with him and spend more time with him as he was a baby and growing up. And so I decided to stay home and sort of launch my business at the same time. So it's like having two babies at once. But that's how I got started in it, making clothes for women who want to look good and feel comfortable.
All right, thank you. Becky, if you will introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Becky Starr. I'm an owner of Starlight Mead, and we make honey wine or mead. A lot of people have never tried mead, so it's kind of a unique opportunity. We're basically a winery, and my light just went out. Instead of using grapes to make the wine, we use honey. We buy from local North Carolina beekeepers. My husband and I have been home mead makers for like 17 years now, and our friends were telling us that it was the best mead we'd ever had, and we said, yeah, sure, it's because you're getting free booze. And then entered a competition, took best in show out of 212 meads, and decided, maybe we should start a business plan, because we were both working in corporate America, and there were layoffs going through both of our companies. And literally a month after we won that award and decided to start working on a business plan, I got laid off from my corporate job. So it kind of fell to me to start the paperwork and get things rolling. We've now been in business for 11 years. We've got 7 employees, 1 full-time, everybody else is part-time. And we just built and moved into a brand new facility 3 years ago at the plant in Pittsburgh. So we're down here with Carmen and hanging out and really enjoying introducing people to a beverage they may never have had before.
Great. And I appreciate now I know where Starlight Mead comes from.
Yes, so we have been told before that we misspelled our company name because it has 2 R's in it. And it's like, no, that was intentional, seriously.
Great. Thank you. Brandy?
Hey everyone, I'm Brandy Morris. I am one of the owners at Red Moose, also one of the brewers. We just opened up, the 27th of November, so we're a pretty new business, but loving being in Pittsburgh, having all of our local people come out. That's kind of our big push, local farms to get our fruit, local grain and whatnot. So we are also just looking forward to continue to grow our customer base and get to know all you other lady entrepreneurs, and very excited to be here. So thanks.
Great. Thank you. Carmen?
Hi, I'm Carmen Rice. I'm one of the owners with my husband of BMC Brewing, and we are also down at the plant in the beverage district, all the way in the back past Starlight Mead. We started this business because we've been brewing for over 30 years and decided that we wanted to expand and sell our beer to people not our friends, introduce the people of Chatham County to beers that they wouldn't normally have tried, And we've had a really good time doing that. We have 15 beers on tap, and we are working locally, collaborating with people at the plant. We collaborate with Copeland Springs. We get pumpkin and sweet potatoes from her. We also use some of our grain. Not only do we give it to farmers to feed animals, but we process some of it into flour, and we make cookies and sell those in the brewery. We also are collaborating with a hop farmer in Chatham County to grow some hops. We've made a couple beers using experimental hops that they developed at NC State that Bee Hoppy Farms grew, and we're just trying to stay local and sustainable and grow a great local joint down at the plant.
Thank you. Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria Parker Lewis. I'm co-owner of 39 West Catering, Forest Hall Event Space, and the Sycamore Steakhouse at Chatham Mills. I'm the mother of 3. And how did I get into this business? I married into it. I never had a desire to own a restaurant or work in a restaurant. My husband and I met at a diner where I was a dishwasher, and I lasted 2 weeks. And that was like as much as I wanted to be involved. And I said, if we do this, you know, you're going to do the day-to-day operations. But that being said, when we moved to Chatham County, we used to frequent a place, the General Store Cafe. And what that brought is part of my world. I'm more of like an art historian sort of person, worked at a museum, was connected to the arts. And so to have the music and the artwork there, my heart broke when it had to close its doors. And so I said to Greg, you know, what can we do to kind of keep this going, but in our own way? And so that's how I entered this world of restaurateurs.
Great. I have been around long enough to remember the General Store and their green chili burritos. So I appreciate you all continuing that on and in your own way. It was a great place. So I wrote a couple of notes down as we were talking here about another question that I might ask later on, but I'd love to hear some advice that you might give for other women who may be interested in opening a business in Chatham County and kind of the brass tacks of actually opening the business, but what about Chatham County also is so important for women opening a business? So I'm going to start in the middle this time, and we'll see if Brandy's got since you had just recently opened, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. My whole family has, been from Chatham County. So we wanted to give back to our community and where we were all raised. So that's when we started looking, when this whole crazy idea popped up, and we started looking for places. That was very important to us to find somewhere, within Pittsboro that we could make our own. And it's definitely been a ride having this be our first business. We did not have a clue when we first got started. It was definitely a big learning curve for us, but it's been great.
Good. Carmen, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that the most important thing is to really educate yourself into what you're getting yourself into and what the rules and regulations are and what hoops you're going to have to jump through. And just make sure that you stand up for yourself, because, the rules seem to change periodically, and you just have to be ready to, bend and figure out where you're going. So.
All right, Lysandra, you had 2 babies at one time. So what kind of advice, or what would you tell other women about opening a business and opening a business here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no good time to start a business. I think a lot of people try to wait until they're ready. Like, oh, I have to wait till my kids are in high school. I have to wait till I'm retired. I have to wait until ... There's no good time to start a business. If you have an idea and you've done the research, like Carmen said, and you figured out what you're going to have to do, go for it. And I think specifically for Chatham County, I would say network before you started your business. Go to Wake Up Wednesday, go to the Pittsburgh Business Association meetings, like meet people in town, because other business owners are how you're going to learn the ins and outs of our particular town and our particular county.
Great. Well, Maria, I think from your perspective, from somebody who maybe didn't expect to be doing this, and you are involved in a number of different ventures, what kind of wisdom would you impart on those maybe thinking of doing this here in Chatham?
I agree very strongly with both Carmen and Lysandra. There are so many rules and regulations, especially when it comes to restaurants. I don't know what it's like for a brewer. And so you have to be on top of that. I also agree that don't wait. I mean, heck, we closed and then opened a brand new restaurant in the middle of a pandemic. If you know it's right, lean on the people that can help you through it. And also, I want to say one thing. They mentioned, Lysandra mentioned the Pittsburgh Business Association. When we first joined, we used to host the meetings at our place, and I was noticing one morning all of the members that were coming in. There were about 25 people at that time, and I would say at least 15 of those were women. I was just astounded at how many female business owners we have in the area. And the one thing that I know, and I can't speak about any other community, I can only speak about this one that, I ventured into, is that I think we've got a very community-minded group of people in Pittsburgh, in Chatham County, and I think women in particular. And go ahead, network, reach out. There are many people, many women that would be happy to mentor one-on-one. And there are times you're going to need that, especially getting through all of the permitting stuff, the frustrations. You're going to need a shoulder to cry on. So yeah, that's my advice. Find a good female woman mentor, because they're out there. Great.
Becky, you've been in a couple different places with your business, having been, if I recall correctly, up at the mill, right? Mm-hmm. Chatham Mill, and then moving out to the plant. So you've had to do this in a couple of different locations. So for women looking to grow their business, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think honestly, some of the same advice that you give somebody that's starting out, and that's talk with other people that are doing it. Of course, changing locations when you have alcohol permits is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. It's like recertifying a brand new location, and they don't care that you've been doing it for 8 years already, which is super frustrating. But so alcohol has its own quirks and special permits and licenses that you have to get. But I know when we first opened, we talked to several business owners, a winery owner, and somebody else who was already making mead, and talked to them about, okay, what hoops, what can you tell us? And sometimes, I mean, a bank, especially if you're going to get a loan or something, a bank wants to see history. And if you're new, you have no history. So you've got to kind of project what your sales are going to be, and they can help you do that because they can give you the real nuts and bolts about what is it really like and what to expect. Now, their experience is going to be different than yours. Your mileage may vary. But sometimes hearing that somebody else already went through this and survived and made it and opened the business is encouraging, and yeah, relocating is a whole another crazy can of worms.
So from what I'm hearing, you all feel that there's support that you have identified to help with some of these struggles, some of that, and I dare say from the government perspective, bureaucratic kind of things that you have to jump through in getting your businesses off the ground, big or small. So Maria alluded to something in her comments about opening another restaurant during the pandemic. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, not specifically that, but the pandemic in a broader sense. The last couple of years have been pretty rough. I can't believe I'm actually saying the past couple of years, but the past couple of years have been pretty rough on everyone, but especially on small businesses. And I think in a way that perhaps some other economic downturns and roller coasters that the economy has really happened. I've seen a lot kind of ups and downs, but this was a different animal here. So even though the pandemic's not over, it is a new year, and so that often brings us to a point of reflection. So Carmen, I'll start with you. What, looking back over these last couple of years, what are you most proud of?
I'm definitely proud that we were able to open this business. You know, we started before the pandemic and we did our build out during the pandemic. And we opened in the middle of it. We delayed a grand opening until the summer or the fall. We opened at the end of July of last year. And we had a grand opening after we had been open for a while, just to make sure that COVID wasn't, you know, as strong as it was and we could gather that many people at one time. I think though, oddly enough, the pandemic has made things a little bit easier for us in not the selling of beer part, but the getting approvals. Like everything is now, you know, electronic, and we submit for our approvals at the federal level or the state level. And that seems to be a little bit smoother than it maybe was before the pandemic, since everyone's using email and electronic means. It's still hard getting people to come out in the middle of this, but you know, we mask up and we try to get people in and, you know, make sure everyone feels comfortable. And you know, we're really proud that we've started this, and our business is already growing during this pandemic.
Great. Becky, what are you most proud of in these last couple of years?
My employees, for one thing. They were troopers. They got laid off in April of 2020 because we were like, holy cow, we're not going to have any business or whatever. We were lucky in several ways in that we were considered essential. People need their booze, so we were able to stay open and sell bottles even when. But we were also considered similar to the restaurants in that until the restaurants could have people in, we couldn't have anybody in other than just picking up a bottle and going. And all of our business is on site. So I said to my employees, I'm like, you guys, we got the PPP loan, which was great. And so I was able to continue to hire them back and continue to pay them. And I'm like, you know, most of what we do is on site. What can we do? And they ended up testing recipes at home that we were putting on our website. They were writing blog posts. They were doing all kinds of things that they don't normally do. And, you know, just really trooped through it with us. And then our customers have been amazing. I mean, it helped that we had, you know, 9, almost 10 years under our belt when it hit. So we had loyal customers, we had a following, and our online sales skyrocketed. And we were having to come in every day just to fill boxes and put them out in the UPS. So it was really a challenge that, you know, obviously was not anticipated by anybody. We came through last year really well. We actually had our best year ever, which is insane to me because we did not expect to recover that quickly. And, you know, again, my employees stepped up and did whatever it took. And it's like, holy crap, do we need to hire some people now? Because, you know, it's suddenly really busier than we expected. So it's been a real roller coaster.
Uh-huh. I can see that. Maria, what are you most proud of this last couple of years?
My first thought was surviving, but then I realized that there's a large part of luck that kind of contributed to that. Gosh, this is going to sound really kind of syrupy or gushy or whatever, but I'm really proud of the community spirit. When schools had to close and restaurants had to close and toilet paper was hard to come by, many groups within the community, restaurants included, pulled together to help feed students that weren't getting their lunches from schools. And I'm proud that we were able to participate in that, and our staff did. We turned the front of our space into a little store, and we cooperated with other businesses that had to be closed, like the toy store, so that people came in to pick up a meal, they could buy a game to take home. So just the community and the way that we all pulled together to take care of each other. And I'm really proud that I got to be a part of that.
Great. Brandy, how's it been going for you all for the last couple of years? What are you proud of?
I'm proud of us getting open, and having a great first couple of months. Although it did not feel like it at the time, we from the time we got in our building and started working, we opened in 13 months, and it felt at the time like it took forever. But I really am proud of what we got done during that time and getting open, especially being new business owners, having not a clue what we were doing. Sometimes with the pandemic, it was a little more difficult to get help figuring out what the next steps as far as like permitting or ABC and things, when we couldn't actually talk to somebody to get our questions answered. So that was one challenge that we really had to kind of figure out and navigate, and where it was good to have people that were in the industry that were willing to help us and point us where we needed to go. So we're really grateful to have all those contacts.
Great. What about you, Lysandra? What are you proud of from the last 2 years, looking back at the last 2 years?
Yeah, I'm in an unusual situation because I make women's clothes. And so for me, it was about pivoting to making face masks. And so for like the past 2 years, I've been making an insane amount of face masks. Not anymore, because we now know that it doesn't work for the Omicron variant, but I mean, that is what kept my business afloat largely in 2020 and 2021. We talk a lot about businesses and how you have to shift, and being a small business, it allows you to be much more nimble than big businesses. So like the day that the CDC recommended that everybody be wearing face masks, I launched face masks because I had tested them with my friends. I was donating them to nurses and hospitals and doctors before I started selling them and after. So I already knew like what fit would work well. So being able to do that kind of pivot. And also in 2020, we decided to homeschool my kids. They were in kindergarten and first grade, and they are not going to sit in front of a screen and do virtual school. And I knew that about them. And so it's like, do I fight them to be in front of a screen, or do I just learn how to be a homeschool mom for 5 months? And that's what we decided to do, because it was what was best for our family. So not only did I have my best year in my business so far by like 400%, but I was also homeschooling my kids at the same time. So I'm proud that we all survived that, and that my business continues to grow even after. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think survival is a capital S these days, right? I think I too have been very impressed with our community's ability to pivot. I know that the Board of Commissioners uses 39 West catering quite a bit, and it was like there was not even really a blink. We went from hot to boxed, bam, real quick. It's but I think we did what we needed to do and continue to do that, right? I'm going to go a little bit off of my my questions that I had prepared, because I heard a couple of things when you all were introducing yourself that I wanted to kind of dig into just a little bit more. And that is the idea of the concept of buying local. So I heard a number of you say that it was important to you to get materials and supplies and so forth from local suppliers. I'm inferring that it was important to you. How important is that to you and your business model? And so, Brandy, I think I heard you say that is to start off with. So how important is that as a fundamental idea in the way you do business?
Yeah, that's a really big focus for us. We have a friend that has bees that's, we're getting the honey to do anything that we use honey for. Anybody that we know that has local farms that we can get fruit from, things like that. We really want to support those people, kind of keep it local, grow our local business and everybody around here to do well. We also use our malt comes from Durham, so it's all North Carolina and Virginia farms. So we're excited to be able to support them. Yeah, that's it's just something that's always been really important to us.
All right, Becky, you've been in business a while, somewhat comparatively. Was that a philosophy from the beginning?
Yeah, so it absolutely was a philosophy from the beginning. We wanted to use as much local North Carolina honey as we could. Now, I'll be really frank with you in that we also made the decision at the beginning of the business that we were not going to go out of business for that principle. If we couldn't get North Carolina honey, we were willing to go outside of North Carolina to stay in it. Now, having said that, we do supplement. So there's some flavors like orange blossom honey you can't get here in North Carolina. There are no orange trees. So there's some varietal things like that we definitely go outside the state for. But the majority of our wildflower honey that we buy is North Carolina. Interesting fact is that we could actually buy wildflower honey from California and have it shipped across the country for less per pound than we pay for North Carolina honey, which is sad. So my cost of goods are a little bit higher, but I like supporting the beekeepers, the local beekeepers when we can. And we've been really lucky, even as we've grown. We purchased over 5.5 tons of honey last year to make our meads, and that's a lot of honey. So and we've been able to do that primarily with North Carolina honey. We also, Carmen mentioned Copeland Springs Farms. We've gotten jalapeno peppers from them for our kick and cranberry orange. We also bought coffee from Vortex Roasters here on the property for our coffee mead. And so we've done a lot of things like that too, where we've gotten other products that we can locally.
Carmen, I was going to kick it over to you next to ask about the Copeland Springs connection and how have you found it to be the ease of which you can find local suppliers for to tie right into what you're doing?
With Copeland Springs, it's really easy. We just walk next door and grab Kristen and say, hey, we want to make pumpkin cookies. Can you roast us a pumpkin? And she'll, give that to us. And we barter. We give her beer in exchange for her pumpkin. We got sweet potatoes from her. We have a sweet potato beer fermenting. Actually, I think it's almost ready to go on tap. We collaborate with Chatham Cider Works. They make a hopped cider for us. The recent batch is hops that we were actually grown on site. We grew them outside on our patio, and they provided beautiful shade vines for us for a couple months. And then we harvested those and gave them to Chatham Cider Works to, work up that hopped cider. We've talked to Ben and Becky about collaborating on some sort of a honey beer. We got to get that underway. The very first thing we ever brewed on our big system was a mash for fair game to make whiskey out of. So they distilled that, and that's in a barrel waiting to be done. I think that'll be ready in the first quarter of the year, probably for St. Patrick's Day. So, and we also use Vortex Roasters coffee in our coffee beers. And it's, like I said, it's really easy. All that stuff is local at the plant, and you just walk next door and find the person you want to talk to and work it out. So, but being local is really important to us. Our slogan is serving Chatham County one pint at a time. And we do want to keep it local, even though we'll serve anybody from any county, but we want to keep it local and keep it all in the county. We also donate money to the Abundance Foundation, which is at the plant. And they're a really big part of, what we believe in, creating abundance for the community. So we're really proud of that too. But it's easy to collaborate at the plant.
Wonderful. Well, Maria, you've had a couple of different ventures that might require changing your focus for local suppliers. Has that been easy, difficult? How important was it for you all to continue to use local producers?
It was very important to continue to use local producers. When we moved, we left Wake County. We originally had a business in Wake County and moved out here. We live in Silk Hope. And we still had a business in Wake County at the time, but I grew up in an agricultural area, and which is one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Chatham County. And I hope it's a large agricultural county, and my hope for this county is that it continues to preserve a large that identity to a large extent. And so what can I do to help make that happen? So when we moved the business to Chatham County, it wasn't just about, shopping local. Now it's incorporating it into our business. And it was beyond just a food product. We were using local beef and pork when we could. One of the challenges when you have a large restaurant is quantity. So we weren't always able to get what we needed through local meat producers. We were working with a local pig farmer, kind of cyclical. We provide the slop, they feed the pig, they provide the pig, and it goes round and round. But also when we were upfitting both the Roadhouse and the Sycamore, we used where we could local materials, local craftsmen, artists, designers. And when we shop, we do our best to shop locally and dine small mom and pop.
Mm-hmm. Great. Lysandra, you're not necessarily, well, and I don't know this, using local suppliers like some of the others are, but you're an integral part of the local community. So how do you find that connection and how critical that is? And how important is it to you?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because the nature of my business, like I sort my raw materials are fabric. And I'm sure, or maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure that most people know, there's not a whole lot of fabric that's actually being made in the US, let alone in North Carolina. There's a lot of things that are made from fabric here. So I can't source my fabric locally. So for me, thinking about being a part of the local community and supporting other local businesses is more from, like I get all of my hang tags and things like that printed from a company that's based in Cary. And I do a lot of work with a lot of local companies. So I've made face masks for Web Squared, which is a nonprofit that's supporting Black entrepreneurs that's also housed in the plant. I've made face masks for the Chatham Chamber of Commerce, for the Chatham News and Record, and so I try to participate in the community as much as I can, because I can't source a lot of my raw materials locally. I've gotten business cards from the Chatham Business Services and things like that. So I try to be very mindful of where it's possible for my business to work with local vendors and make sure that in the ways that I can, that I am still being an integral part of the community.
Great. Well, I'm going to stick with you then before you take yourself off mute. So I'd like to know, I made the comment earlier that you all have done something I'm not sure I have the guts to do. Yeah. What has been your biggest challenge, whether it be personal, professional, your biggest challenge in being an entrepreneur, and even maybe more specifically, a female entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Gosh, I feel like right now it's hard to say what the biggest challenge is after the past 2 years. But I think for us, like maintaining consistency in sales, because my business is very seasonal. People buy new clothes in the spring and they buy lots of gifts in the holidays. And so like figuring out the right recipe for my business to create that sort of consistency and sales so that I can grow and so that my business can grow. And a new challenge that I've actually found in the past couple of years is finding staff. Like I need to, in order for my business to grow, I need more people. But it's hard to find people who have an interest in fashion and the production of fashion, who will come to Pittsburgh to work or live in Pittsburgh. And so that has been something that I'm still looking for people. And it's got to be the right fit for my company too, because we have a very specific perspective about clothing. Like we believe in body acceptance, not body positivity in a toxic way, but body acceptance. Like this is the body you're in, and we're going to fit clothes to the body that you have right now. And so it has to be somebody who believes in that as well and is committed to like making sure that we never make women or anybody feel bad about their bodies because something doesn't fit the way they want it to. Like the clothes are the problem, not your body. And so we are working very hard to communicate that message. And so finding people who both care about fashion and also care about body acceptance can be tricky.
And like many women probably on this call, we have sections of our closet of maybe I'll fit in it, probably never again.
Yeah.
You know, all of those, right?
We have the wish clothes, the curve clothes, the
right.
maybe I ate too much cake clothes.
Great. Becky, what has been your biggest challenge?
Honestly, for me, it's been work-life balance. Nobody told me up front that owning your own business meant you were on call 24/7. And especially as a new business owner, so sorry, Brandy, it's nonstop. You wake up in the middle of the night making lists of things you need to do the next day. I mean, it is seriously nonstop. And trying to find the way to let go of that. I think somebody mentioned it earlier, but having a new business is like having a new baby. And as the business gets older, it's just like as a child ages. And, you know, they get to the age where you can leave them alone with somebody else and it doesn't have to be you and it's okay. And you can finally take a weekend off after, however many years you've been running that business kind of thing. Well, now I have an adolescent business, and so I can go away for a week and it's okay. It'll survive and it'll get into trouble, but it'll be okay. But still, and so I'm not spending those, sleepless nights anymore making lists like I was as a young entrepreneur. But still, and specifically, I think as a woman, I spend my day off doing laundry and grocery shopping and cleaning up the house. And, my son's grown, and so my kid isn't home anymore, which is helpful. But still, a lot of the chores at home fall to me. And so, it's hard to carve out time to paint or to, do something fun for myself on my day off that isn't taking care of the house. So yeah, that work-life balance has been a real challenge.
Okay, Maria, what do you think has been your biggest challenge in this entrepreneurship?
Gosh, they mentioned some good ones already. They are all challenges. I would say this is sort of related to the balance, but compartmentalizing. So that, like, if I've had a bad day at work, trying not to bring that home, or vice versa. The other thing too that I have a difficulty finding balance in is my business, obviously, well, for all of us, we're part of what we do. Part of the joy that we get from what we do is seeing how others are enjoying what it is that we're providing, we're producing. And so to always, make sure you're kind of hitting the mark or even finding ways to improve, you have to open up yourself to criticism. And it was hard in the beginning. I think the sort of constant reviews that people would do, I think that's sort of kind of backed off a little bit, and people aren't just using Yelp or whatever as a place to vent. But in the beginning, that's what it was. And it was hard to not let that be the constant megaphone in my ear. It was hard to not say, I am only going to give this criticism just enough attention. Because there are valid criticisms that you need to pay attention to and to focus on, but just enough so that you're actually dealing with it and then able to move on. And then those other voices that are just there to complain or vent, find a space for that. That really surprised me because I just didn't realize how much of it back when we first opened, the Roadhouse was out there. It affected me more deeply than I wish it had.
Okay, interesting. Carmen, what has been your biggest challenge?
Well, at first I thought it was being taken seriously as a woman in this business, as owning a brewery. But actually, after listening to Becky, I think I agree with her. My biggest challenge is work-life balance. I still have a day job, so I'm working that 40 hours a week, and I'm trying to keep up with the brewery and do what my half of that business. So that's really difficult, and having a day off, like I'm off today. I don't have to work at the brewery. We have staff to cover it and it feels great. But I will probably still do a little bit of work on my day job. So getting that work-life balance is probably the biggest challenge.
What about you, Brandy, especially here in startup mode?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo both Becky and Carmen. Work-life balance. I also am still working my full-time corporate job, and I have a 4-year-old daughter. So we have a lot going on, and it just, and like you all have said, it feels like two babies. I've got my daughter, and then I've got my new baby, my brewery, that I'm always worried about and thinking about, and so it's definitely been a challenge trying to find that happy balance there.
Yeah, I think the challenge of work-life balance, and it sounds, at least two of you working somewhere else too, and trying to get your ventures going. So that being said, as you are growing your businesses here in Chatham County, how can we, as a community, best support you in your venture and draw others in like you? How can we make this a community that is appealing to? Maybe a better question is, what about Pittsburgh was appealing to you, or Chatham County in general? And how can we as a community support and draw in small businesses? Lysandra, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh, I think there's a lot of really good associations and organizations to participate in already that can help you get the sort of resources and advice and guidance that you need. I don't know. I guess for me, having like a more like knowing where to find staff from Chatham County. And I think there's like a job link at CCCC. I haven't quite navigated my way to how to get included in that or how to use it yet. I don't know. I kind of feel like Pittsburgh does a good job. That's like why I'm here, is because we do have this like strong entrepreneurial community. Maybe some like female focused business groups. I know that Maria said that there are a lot of women in some of the business associations, but like one that's explicitly for women, because we do come up against some things like that men don't have to deal with, and there are challenges that we face that men don't. So that might be like the one thing.
Carmen, what do you think? What can we do for you? What can the community do to help support and draw in businesses like yours?
I think the most important thing is to just stay local. Don't go to Cary or Chapel Hill for your beer or your mead or your clothing or, dinner. Stay in Pittsboro. Encourage your friends to come in to Pittsboro and buy local. We've definitely been shopping more locally than we used to since we've opened this business in downtown. And we're very committed to staying local and supporting local businesses. So I would encourage everyone to do that. And, the town and the county, you need to make it easier for small businesses to open. It's easy to get a big box restaurant or whatever to come to town, but, it's people like all of us who are going to make this town grow and thrive.
Becky, what can we do, in your opinion, to support and draw in small businesses here?
I like what Carmen and Lysandra have just said. We chose Pittsboro for a couple of reasons. So we had looked in the triangle, and the lease rates for buildings were ridiculously high. $30 a square foot, a new startup cannot afford that. And so we started looking outside of the triangle, knowing that as a winery, people were willing to travel a little ways to come to visit a winery. And we had friends that lived down here in Pittsboro. So we're like, hey, let's check Pittsboro. It's quirky. We like it. But it still amazes me after 11 years in business that I have people who live in Pittsboro that come in and say, we didn't know you were here. And I'm like, wow, okay, really? Or people that come down, live in Pittsboro and come down to the plant for the very first time and, didn't know all this was back here. And admittedly, what's available back here has grown over the last, 3-4 years. And so it's changed a lot. And what you thought was back here, biodiesel, is not here anymore. Now there's a bunch of really cool businesses. And so I think just getting out if the community getting, and this is true for all of us. I do the same thing. I go to the same restaurants and the same stores all the time. It's what we do. But, maybe getting out and exploring your community and seeing what's out here, because you might be surprised at what's literally in your own backyard.
Yes, I remember. I think I took a tour of the biodiesel plant, and that was it. It was down at the end of this road. And now there's a lot.
There is.
So Brandy, I'm interested. Part of this is personal interest. You occupy a non-traditional space. It used to be our recreation office, as a matter of fact. And so how did that kind of in terms of drawing you in, how did you settle on that space? What drew you to Pittsboro? You said you were from this area, but was that, I'm just astonished that has gone into that space, and that's just because I've had a history with the building. But
Sure.
How was that all decided on your end to be drawn here into that space in particular?
Yeah. So, and it was also, I'm sure a lot of people around my age remember it being the video store. And then most recently, before we were in there, it was the karate studio. But it was really important to us to find something in Pittsboro. We worked with the same real estate agent that helped us find our house in Goldston. He does a lot of properties in Chatham County. And he said, well, I've got this space that was most recently a karate studio. Just take a look and see what you think. And I kind of went in there, and I think everybody else was looking and they're like, what are we going to do with this space? And I just kind of saw so much potential. So it definitely is non-traditional. And we were in there working for months and months, but it was a lot of fun to be able to make it our own. And, we love being kind of walkable. And so it's been really good to have found that space, even though it's been many things before it became a small brewery. Yeah.
And you can't miss it going around the circle. All you can see is Red Moose Brewing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Maria, I'll end this topic with you. And I know you have been involved in the Pittsboro Business Association and are part of that network of people that is there to support businesses. But what else do you feel like can be done to help draw small business to this area?
Well, I think we need to continue some of the things that we have been doing, especially the PBA, creating a community environment, creating events that would draw people in from out of the area so they can see our offerings. One thing that the county used to do, and maybe you can tell me, Carolyn, if it was the county or the EDC. They used to have meetings with people that were interested in opening a small business, where they would get everybody together in one room so that business owner could sit down and talk with the planning department from the town, the planning, fire marshal, and so on. Does that still happen?
It does. They do them virtually now. They're called pre-app meetings, pre-application meetings, and it's an opportunity to sit down and get those permitting people in the room to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of. What do I need to do? So we do still do that. It's done virtually now. But those have been very popular and I hope very helpful.
I've been wanting to direct people to that, but had a hard time finding it. So
the planning department is the one that organizes those, because most things flow through them. So they have I think they have two people that focus on the convening of those groups and making sure the county representatives are there that need to be there, so that the questions can get answered. So yeah, if you have folks or you need to direct somebody, send them to our planning department and we can get that organized.
That's great, because I think those resources, promoting those resources, getting them out there, such meetings. I saw people talking about the small business center at the community college, the EDC, getting those resources out there so people are aware of what there is, right? That whole networking group that are here ready and waiting to help you, get your business started. But going back to what I said earlier, part of the reason why I do what I do with the PBA is because it's like this gem, this like hidden gem Pittsboro is, and to a larger extent, I think Chatham County also. And so what can we be doing to get people in? Because I think once people get here, they become enamored and want to become a part of this community.
I would agree with you. So we are in a position here in Chatham County, particularly in the Pittsboro area, where we are poised for some explosive, what I would label as explosive growth. So just curious, how are you all planning for that? How are you all prepping for that? Is that you're just gonna, I don't know. I like to think we could kind of predict what's going to happen, but I don't know that any of us have any idea what a development, particularly the size of Chatham Park, but it's not the only one. I think that's the thing that we don't mention as often, is that's the biggie, but there's all kinds of things around it. So what are you all doing to prep for growth? Becky, what are you all going to do in your teenage years?
Good question. Cross our fingers. No, I'm kidding. So we moved into a larger facility 3 years ago. We moved in October of 18. And so that was part of it. We had outgrown our very first space and we desperately needed more room. Having said that, we're still at points now where it's like, okay, there needs to be more parking spaces because there's a lot of people coming out. So trying to, figure out those logistics is a big thing. Overall, I'm in favor of the growth because that's more customers in my backyard. So, more customers who haven't tried the product yet, more customers to introduce to it. The logistics of all those people is a whole nother question. And, trying to wrap our heads around it because we've only been in this space for 3 years and one of those years disappeared into the ether and didn't exist. It's, you know, we're still trying to learn the best way to use our new space, even though it is larger than what we had before. So I don't know that I actually have a good answer.
Well, no, I think you're. If anybody has a perfect answer, I'll be writing it down.
Me
So,
too.
Lysandra, you have recently opened some studio space, I believe is what I heard you say earlier. So how else are you prepping for just a lot more exposure and a lot more people?
Yeah, so I actually, when I first moved my studio from my house to downtown Pittsburgh, I was across the street above the Beagle. And it was like this tiny, like 400 square foot, like conference room basically. And by August, I was like, I'm out of space. And so I moved across the street. So now I have like 800 plus square feet. So that's one of the things I'm doing. And then I recently got an EDC grant to allow me to turn like the front portion of my studio into a retail space. So I can have open studio hours. So it's a big open space. So I'm hoping to have open studio hours where people can come in and shop, like literally shop off the rack and take it home. And you can also see where your clothes are made, which I think people have become so disconnected from that. That's sort of a really cool thing to do, to be able to see. And so it's a small thing for us, but you know, having the ability to have people actually come shop with me instead of having to shop online or figuring out where I am at a pop-up market is really, you know, how I hope that we can keep up with growth. And then again, trying to find staff so I can grow my team and meet the demand, the growing demand.
So Carmen, how are you all gonna brace yourself for this growth?
Actually, most of why we opened the brewery when we did was because of Chatham Park. We figured that was, you know, there were no breweries in Pittsburgh beyond Carolina Brewery. And we thought that was a good place to, you know, start a brewery, get it going before Chatham Park actually happened. And, you know, the plant is a great place to come. There are 17 acres. You know, we're not limited to just our tap room and just our patio. You can move about. So we're prepared for, you know, a plethora of customers, and you know, we're looking forward to hundreds of people. And we're getting ready this quarter. They're going to be paving all the area around, all the gravel roads around there. So Becky will get more parking, and you know, more parking, more people. It'll be great. But that's always been part of the plan for us. So we knew this was coming and you know, planned accordingly. But that's why we started the business.
Gotcha. Brandy, was that part of your thought process as well?
Yeah, we knew that with it coming, it would be a really good opportunity for us. But, you know, we wanted to, we're a single barrel system. We're very small. And that's, you know, kind of what we wanted to do is start small and then hopefully outgrow it. So with us being so new, I really don't have a good answer to that. We haven't, you know, actively started planning to expand, but we have been, you know, kind of playing with the ideas that we like and the, you know, future plans that we would like to have, just not, you know, we've only been open, you know, since the 27th of November. So we're just a baby business right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maria, I know you've seen, because you have had some different ventures, a change in folks that come through. And are you seeing people coming in from out of county rather than just staying local, which of course is important, but are you drawing people in from outside of the county to your spaces?
Yeah, and at the Roadhouse for sure, especially when we had concerts, it was a big draw from out of the county. And one of the reasons why we opened a steakhouse, when we closed the Roadhouse, a restaurant's always in competition. You know, one closes, another one opens. And with Chatham Park, there's just gonna be, while there be more people, there will also be many more restaurants. And so one of the things that we thought about was recognizing the draw that the Roadhouse had for people to come in out of the county. One of the thoughts was, well, what can we bring to this space that might also be a draw? And so there are a few small upscale steakhouses just outside of the county, but most of the steakhouses are big box chains. And so we wanted to look at Pittsburgh and say, well, what dining needs aren't being met also? And so that one type of restaurant, an upscale steakhouse, seemed to fit in with unmet needs here in the county, as well as being a draw for those outside. And I think we have a really unique space too. It's not just a place to come and dine. That being said, while it wasn't simply Chatham Park that caused us to head in the direction we did, we also thought that with the increase in competition for diners, we needed to kind of diversify more. Still food related, but that's why we kept our catering and then got an event space. Because those are two still very big needs that I think that we can fill. And so if one area might be suffering for a short time due to competition, the others can make up for it with restaurants. And I don't know how it is with breweries or meaderies. But whenever a new restaurant opens, you're always losing business for a short time because everybody wants to go and see, visit the new kid on the block. So there's always competition anyway. So again, I wouldn't say Chatham Park was a big factor in what we decided to do and what we're going to continue to do, but it does to an extent factor into it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's going to challenge all of us with some dichotomies, right? We have this small town feel, and yet we're going to be facing the tremendous pressures of growth, and we're going to continue to have conversations about what that means, what that looks like, what that feels like, to really figure out where we're going and how we want to get there. I do want to leave a bit of time at the end here for some questions. I've seen some in the chat, so I do want to give you all an opportunity as we wrap up here to. You've been talking plenty about your different ventures, and I think that's great about some of the things you're doing. But do you have any big news? What's your plug here at the end? Your finishing statement to make sure that everybody remembers you. Not that I think they're going to forget, because I'm coming to all of these places as soon as I can. So what do you want people to know? And what big things have you got going on? So Brandy, I'm going to start with you this time.
Yeah, gosh, big things going on. We're doing a fundraiser on Monday for the Carolina Tiger Rescue in honor of Betty White's 100th birthday. So we're releasing a Betty White special beer, $1 off of every pint going to the Carolina Tiger, unless we get snowed out and have to reschedule. So stay tuned on that. But that's a big event coming. We hope to see you all. One of our big hopes is to make Pittsburgh, a destination, and people come and visit all of us and check us all out. And so thank you so much for having me. And yeah, that's all I have.
Before you sign off, will you tell,
Sure.
I did see something in the chat about where you all are. And I know, Lysandra, you were able to put your address in the, so Brandy, you will tell people where you're located. I've talked about it, but
Sure.
some.
Yeah. If you come around the circle around the courthouse, we're the white brick building next to Hardee's. We're 90 East Street, but I can definitely type that in the comments as well.
Great. All right, Carmen, what do you want to tell us about something big going on and what we can look forward to?
Well, we have 2 loggers that are coming ready soon. Those have been loggering for several months. And hopefully we'll be releasing those at the time of Greg Lewis's pub crawl. That's going to be in March, I believe. And the paving is going on, so hopefully things will, people will be able to find the plant and come and enjoy Starlight Mead and Fair Game Beverage, Copeland Springs Kitchen and Farm, all the other businesses down there. We're not just food and beverages. We have a couple of hemp stores. We have a hemp clothing store. We're host to 2 nonprofits, Abundance and Web Squared. And just watching the plant grow is going to be the big news of BMC Brewing.
I have to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're at 213 Lorax Lane.
okay, which is east of Pittsburgh, kind of
Yep.
where the credit union is. If you,
Right, go back to the credit union and keep going until you see us.
yeah. I did have the thought in my brain when I saw you all on here that this just looked like a pub crawl. People that were here, so I'm glad to hear that's coming. Maria, what do you want to tell us about what's coming up with some of your ventures?
Well, because this venture is still so new, we don't have too much new going on. We just had a great Christmas. We brought in some local jazz singers for 1 week, and that went really well. And so we're looking to bring that in once a month, maybe even once a week, and open on an extra day. Right now, we're only open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, due in large part to an issue that others have mentioned in this meeting, which is staffing. It's been a huge issue, and unfortunately continues to be. So that might be put on hold for a while till we get that addressed. But I do want to make a correction. Carmen, it's Greg Stafford that is doing the pub crawl. It's a mistake that gets made quite often because he was our landlord, so he's very closely associated with what was the Pittsburgh Roadhouse, and of course Greg Lewis is associated with what was.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. So we're in communication with him about that. So yeah, so I appreciate you mentioning just the whole thing. But yeah, it's Greg Stafford.
Great.
Yeah, I wish I had something to say because this would be a great opportunity, but nothing.
I think stay tuned is a good send off.
Okay.
Lysandra, what do we need to know about what's coming up for you all?
Yes, sorry, my son wants to say hello.
By all means, by all means.
Hi. So like I said, we're opening a open studio space, a retail space. I was hoping to have like a sort of grand opening little shopping event, but the way that the pandemic is evolving, it's gonna have to wait for a little bit. So it'll probably be in February, late February. Fingers crossed that this resolves soon, or I figure out a way to do it safely in the meantime. So yeah, so that's coming. So follow me on Instagram or Facebook, or visit my website, www.geekchicclothing.com. If you, and I'll put it in the comments, if you, to find out when that's happening. Yeah, and like you can always, people can always email me to stop by the studio if they want. So that's the big news.
Great. All right, Becky, what have we got to look forward to out at Starlight Mead?
Well, we've got neat things going on all the time. On the 29th, we've got Claws, which is a animal rescue operation, bringing birds out. If they come out pretty much once a month, and you can see hawks and owls and crows up close and personal, which is super cool. They're a nonprofit, and like I said, they do bird rescue particularly. We've got 2 home mead making classes coming up next month. We've got a beginning one. If you've never made mead before, you can learn to make it at home. It's super fun. And then we've got a new mead coming out in February that's called Some More Mead. It's a meadow foam honey, which tastes like marshmallows, that's been aged on cocoa nibs. So it's chocolate and marshmallow mead. It's super fun and sells out really quickly every time we make it.
That sounds fantastic, actually.
It's pretty yummy. We actually have the wild, it's called Wild Foam, which is the base mead from that, which just tastes like marshmallows. And it's amazing because all the marshmallow flavor comes directly from the honey. We don't add anything to it.
Nice. That sounds great. Well, thank you all for your participation. I'm not signing off completely. I'm going to open the floor to questions for our panelists. But I do want to, before we get a little bit less organized here, I do want to thank you all for your perspectives and your thoughts and your residents and businesses in Pittsburgh and Chatham County. You just add so much value back into the community, and I think that's what keeps us all going. and invigorated to make this a better place to be and live and work and all of those things. I invite anybody who's got a question, you're welcome to put it in the chat if that's easier. If you want to raise your hand, literally or on Zoom, we can call on you. You will need to unmute yourself.
Carolyn,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There is a question in the chat from Jennifer Platt, and she posted this a little bit back. She'd like to know what local startup resources women are using, like the CCCC Small Business Center, and what gaps we need to fill. She's a member of the Chatham EDC, and supporting small business development is one of their top priorities. And we may have already covered that, but panelists, it's that's for you.
Okay. So what resources that exist did you use? I know Lysandra mentioned getting an EDC loan to help open the studio space. Have others used some of the resources at the community college or the EDC?
We did use, we took some classes through the Small Business Center at the community college. That mentoring program, I'm sorry, it's eluding me right now. It's not SMART. I'm sorry, there's a mentoring program with retirees that come in, and they've walked alongside of us. Thank you. Yes, SCORE. I would say SMART, but yes, it's SCORE. Thank you. We have not, because it didn't exist and it would be a conflict of interest, but we have not taken advantage of the EDC loan that came out this year, but we were certainly happy to assist people in applying for that, and appreciate that the county had made those funds available. There's also, we didn't use it because we didn't know about it at the time, but I want to put it out there. Main Street has a facade grant. So if you're new and you're having to redo your awnings, your signs, painting, changing windows, whatever, there's a grant that will assist with that.
Thank you.
So I have a second part to that question.
Okay.
I'd like to know, where do you get your information regarding businesses and business development in Chatham County? For those of you that are business owners.
I'll hop on and answer from my perspective. From other business owners that I know, and then if they reach out to me, which is probably not the best way to do it, but as busy entrepreneurs, you know, it's hard to go hunting for something that you don't know exists. Like you guys posted about the Professional Women of Chatham and Orange County that I've never heard of before. And I've lived here for 11 years and had my business for 8. So, you know, I don't know if like there's a proactive way for the organizations to reach out to business owners or new business owners. But for me, it's been other business owners telling me about what exists. I think somebody forwarded me the EDC grant too.
Yeah,
it's tough because, like Lysandra said, you don't know what you don't know, you know? The things that I found helpful when we were opening were lists posted online where you can go, okay, you need to look at this, you need to think about zoning, you need to think about, you know, whatever those things are as a new business owner that maybe you didn't think of because nobody told you, hey, by the way, you got to check if you're in the right zoning. You know, so I think, and there, oh boy, there was a state resource online, they renamed it, oh shoot, that had some great resources on it. I'll see if I can come up with it. I'm totally blanking on it at the moment, but that was helpful when we found that, but that was after we opened, so.
yeah, I would agree. Word of mouth is how I find out. Getting feedback. Is anybody getting feedback from me? No. Okay. Yeah, a lot of my information. In the beginning, having an organization like the Pittsburgh Business Association, or if you're in Siler City, I don't know if the Merchants Association works the same way, but we had town and county officials that would come to the meetings and help keep us informed. And so I guess this would be really, my request would be more for those people in those positions to come and participate in some of these business organizations to help keep people informed and to be a point of contact, also help lead them in the right direction.
There's another organization. It's through North Carolina State University. And I just know the call numbers, the call letters are AWE. I can't think of what the first letter stands for, but it's women entrepreneurs, but it's specifically for women entrepreneurs. And you can get lots of guidance from them. They can put you on to mentorship programs. And of course, there's classes that they can get you into as well. But that might be something that you can take a look at. It is through North Carolina State University. Okay.
Right. Jennifer had her hand raised.
Yes,
There you
thank
go.
you. Thanks. I am the current president of the Professional Women of Chatham and Orange counties. I welcome all of you to attend or to go to our website. I posted it in the chat. We are about 3 and maybe almost a half years old. 2 of those years have been pandemic. So I think maybe we haven't gotten the word out as much as we'd like to, because we've been kind of under a rock for a while. But we are back and we are meeting. We have a monthly meeting at different locations in this area. The next one is Wednesday, the 26th at Copeland Farms. So some of you were talking about Copeland Farms, and I'm looking forward to ordering some beer and some mead from whatever local places I can there. So our website is PW-COC, Professional Women of Chatham and Orange Counties .com, and I hope you check us out. We're a fun group. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Carol, did you get your question answered? I believe that you had asked a question in the chat that both Carmen and Brandy responded to. I just wanted to double back and make sure that you felt like that answered your question.
Yeah, it's a strange question, but with all this focus on craft breweries and the meadery and the distilleries, and there's a real movement of people that show up now in all sorts of magazines that are, Dry January and so forth. And I just think there's a huge population of people that would come to these locations if it didn't feel like you have to drink alcohol there. Like that's what that place is for. And so I just throw that out to all these wonderful local businesses that are starting, where the title and the focus sounds all about alcohol drinking. And so I'm really excited that at the plant, for example, there's kombucha on tap. And I know Carmen has a really nice selection of cool sodas in her cooler. I mean, I've found them. Like I have to go looking. When I was pregnant, I knew where every bathroom in Chatham County was. Right. You're right. I mean, I know in every storefront in downtown Pittsburgh where the bathroom is hidden. And so I feel like that. I feel like I'm having to search at these locations and for something that makes me able to be included there. So I just throw that out because this is such a growing trend for young businesses, new businesses, and I love supporting them. But I just, I think there's a population that you could reach if you mention this in your advertising somehow. And we also have a, really cool ginger something. I don't know. Anyway, just my 2 cents. This has been really wonderful. And I'm so excited when you all went on, we could see each other. This is really lovely. We are a great group of women in Chatham County.
I definitely agree. I think we've got time for one more question. If somebody has one or a comment that they want to make, that would be fine as well. Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. We've got any? Jennifer?
Just a general observation. I'm a professor over at UNC in their public health program. I teach online, and one of the classes I teach is on equity, gender equity. And in order to achieve that, we also have to have men involved. So I would say that, you know, for each of us to try to pull men in our communities into the effort to advance women business owners, because you know they're half the population. So it's just kind of an observation that there are no men here today, I don't think. And anyway, so just a comment, but great conversation.
There is a question in the chat from Kaylee. Can attorneys join the PWCOC?
Yes. Faith Nager, I'm the treasurer and one of the founding members, and we would love to have you, Kaylee. It's a quick answer.
Absolutely. Really, we support women.
All
and
women.
all women, working women, and we know that mothers are working women too. So we support all women and welcome you all to join us.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here today and taking time on your Saturday to participate in this. I encourage you to stay tuned to the library. You can sign up for an e-notifier on our the Chatham County website that'll let you know about upcoming Celebrating Women series and seminars that we'll have in the future. I think this is a great program that the library is doing. I'm not just typing that because I work here, but because I think it brings us all together in spaces that we sometimes don't naturally get to, and let us have these kinds of conversations. So I will turn it back over to Evie and Rita for any final housekeeping things, and I hope to see you all in the future at one of these very events, or actually in person.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really appreciate your being our moderator today. It was a lot of fun. I tell you, it was really a lot of fun. I hated to see it close down. I want to thank Lysandra and Carmen, Maria, Becky, and Brandy as well for coming in and sharing their experiences today. It's very, very important that we as women support one another and to know and understand the difficulties that we have to go through. Sometimes we have to jump through a few more hoops than our male counterparts, but we jump them, we do the best that we can, and we always stand up at the end. So thank you so very, very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
This was lovely.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you so much for doing this.
It's a great
You know,
opportunity to
I
meet
know it was a
people.
lot of work. Pulling these things together is a lot more work than people realize, right?
Yes.
So I really appreciate you for doing it.
And everybody
All right,
take the
enjoy
time
the
this
snow,
Saturday
everybody.
afternoon. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks so much for doing this. It was really great.